judged? And the answer is, it's like a guy who bribed the jury. So he knows when he appears tomorrow, right? He gave each jury member, 50 grand, whatever. It's like the mafia guy, right? Well, mafia guys don't bribe the jury. They kill everybody. They threaten the jury. They extortion. It's like you bribe the jury. So, okay, you're going to be found innocent, right? Yeah. So that's why the Malachim said. They said, hey, wait a minute. If you've rigged the whole jury, if you rigged the whole system where they're guaranteed to survive, hey, let's say Harel. Forget about the dinam. You rigged the system. Azabon says, no. I rigged the system, it's true. But they're still anxious, so it's true that they will have relief because they survived. But you cannot say Hallel just with relief. You got to say it with joy. You see? It's a beautiful answer. That's what it is. That's why Rosh Hashanah is a Yom Tov. Because we know in the end we will survive. It may be a little rough, because I don't say Yichud is rough. But in the end, we will be in Olam Haba with infinite bliss eternally. That's what's going to happen. And so on. And that's also what we plead. We say Malchias. What is Malchias? King. We anoint God as king, right? We say all the psukim that say that God is a king. So that's our first defense. Then we say, well, if we're not doing enough tshuva, then what we'll do is not that. We'll say zichroinus, which is if you don't, accept our tshuva, accept the merit of our forefathers, you see. And if you don't accept that, then we're finished. So then that's why we read psukim on shofar. We say shofar because then do what the Akedah did. Get up from your seat of mishpat and go into the chamber and save us. And that's why we read those three types of psukim. And we also know why, you see, why shofar has the sounds of crying. Because when you ask the Barsham to activate the Anokas HaYichud, right? Yisurin, that's basically what it's going to happen. But the Yisurin is going to be something we cannot understand. Who's it being applied to and why? We don't know, you see. And that's why the shofar has the sounds of crying. Because ultimately the Anokas HaYichud works through suffering. Except we have no idea of how it's being applied, and so on. But that's why it has that, and so on. Why is the Satan confused? He knows he knows there's Rosh Hashanah. He knows the Jews are going to blow shofar. But he's hoping that they don't blow shofar. So it's not that he's frustrated. It's not that he's confused. He's frustrated when they blow shofar, you see. So it's not a matter of intellect. He's hoping they don't do it. He's hoping he's a Yetzer Hara to get not to blow shofar. And as a result of that, he's incredibly confounded. That's the word, not confused. And unfortunately, there are places that do not blow shofar. And the Gemara says that if a city does not blow shofar that year, it's going to have a terrible year. Because for that people, they have not moved, so to speak, the Rebbeinu Shalom. In any case, why is the Akedah red? Well, we know why the Akedah red. Because that is the power source. That is the rationale of the shofar itself. You see. We now understand what Rosh Hashanah is. The concern of Rosh Hashanah is your individual assignment. What are you doing? Where are you in your assignment? You see. And of course, the assignment is measured by the sins or the mitzvahs or whatever, tshuva and so on. But the key is the assignment. And therefore, what the problem is that what happens as a result of that is not that you're punished. The bad news is not that you're punished. The bad news is that you may be reassigned to some other area. You see, same tikkun, but now instead of becoming rich, God makes you poor. You see, all of a sudden you put money into a stock market, and guess what? The whole thing collapses. You see, because now the Moshe says, well, you have failed to do the tikkun as a wealthy man, then I have to now reassign you as a poor man. You see, so it's not that you're being punished that you're poor, you'll be reassigned. This is the problem, and it's much worse. You see, because there are a lot of assignments that, believe me, we don't like. So the Rosh reassigns you. This is the problem, not only on an individual level, you see, but he also reassigns you on a national level. He just moves the whole Jews right around. Or the Rosh may say, okay, then the Jews as a nation now have to be persecuted as a nation, right? So in order to do that, the Rosh now says, I have to make the nation that I'm going to send them into wealthy. Because God always makes the nation that they go into, they become a major superpower. In any case, this is the idea. How do we take it home? What's the take-home message? the take-home message is that the emphasis that you should do is not only on doing tshuva for the Averis, but to think of the direction in life. That's what you have to think about. Imagine a ship, right? They navigate, and all of a sudden the navigator says, hey, we're supposed to go east, we're going west. So the guy's got to flip the whole wheel, right? And that's called a major correction. The minor correction is if you're going east, but it's 5 degrees off course. It's called a minor correction. What is important to remember is that Rosh Hashanah, what we need to plead is a major correction, which means what? That your priorities have to shift. It has to go from physical concerns, physical emphasis, money, power, wealth, recognition, gaiva, covet, you see, and taiva, pleasure. It has to go from that, and it has to go to ruchnius. That's what it has to do. That's called a major correction. And if it does that, then lo and behold, you are back into your assignment place. Because now you're into ruchnius, right? You're into spirituality. And therefore your assignment now, you could be maintained or maybe even improved. Because the basic reason why you're not doing the assignment isn't an individual sin. It's because your whole direction in life is wrong. That's the problem. And that's what stops you from doing your assignment. But if a person understands that and he does tshuva, not only on each avera, but tshuva on the direction. What am I doing with my life? You know, am I going toward God? I always call it the NG ratio. Are the concerns or the direction of my life servicing the G, the guf, or is it servicing the end, the neshama? Which one is more? Is my life mostly about guf in all its manifestations, or is it about neshama? Is it about the tikkun? Is it about ruchnius? That's what you have to decide. And all of us we slacken off on that, and so on, because there's a tremendous amount of temptations. But whatever it is, you have to be honest. You have to decide that this is what I want to do. That you want to live a God-centered life, not a body-centered life, and so on. It's a very important concept. And essentially, that is one of the greatest defenses that you have on Rosh Hashanah. Because like I said, the problem isn't the punishment. The problem is a reassignment or readjustment someplace else. And nobody knows what that means. It could be from health to sickness. That's also a readjustment. Where God says, okay, you know, you're not doing it healthy, so I'm going to make you sick. Now, that's going to be your new way of trying to undo the damage that you did to your assignment. In any case, that's what I would recommend. Very important. And I would just end with this story, this idea, which really emphasized this idea. The Zvila Rebbe, there was a Rebbe once in Yerushalayim called the Zvila Rebbe. He was a Baal Moifus. He was a very great man. He was a miracle worker. They once tell a story about him, which is incredible, where some guy came home, some Jew came home into his house, and he found a guy stealing from him in the house. And he confronted the guy, and this was in Russia, you know, and all of a sudden, the guy had a heart attack, and he just dropped dead. In the Jew's house. Now, the last thing you want is the Russian government to know that there's a guy in your house and he's dead. Because immediately they say, you did it, right? And that, of course, could start a pogrom. Obviously, that's how many pogroms start. Blood libels and all that. So what did he do? This guy's lying in his house. Guy's dead. So he goes running in the town to the Zvila Rebbe, who was known as a Baal Moifus, a miracle worker. See, this was, by the way, Friday, Erev Shabbos. He runs to the Zvila Rebbe and says, there's a guy in my house, he's dead, right? Help me, I'm finished. So the Zvila Rebbe looks at him and says, wait, I got cholent on the stove. Take some of my cholent, go home, and put it in the mouth of the guy. That's what he says. So that's what the guy did. He took cholent from the Zvila Rebbe, right? Goes home, opens up the guy's mouth, who's dead, right? Gives him cholent, right? Right after that, the guy gets up. He's dead. He gets up. He goes outside, you know, much further away, and then he drops dead, right? And then he dies. I mean, he's dead. But then he lies down, as a dead person should do. In any case, This is the Zvila Rebbe. And when word got out, right, then the Zvila Rebbe ran away from Russia because the word got out that this is like Tchesa Mason, right? And he ran to Eretz Yisrael, and then he was unknown for a while, and then somebody who knew him from Russia came into the shul, and he took one look at the back of the shul and says, "Hey, do you have any idea who's sitting in the back of that room?" And that was it. He blew the cover, as they say, you know. Here's what the Zvila Rebbe said, and this was told to me many years ago by the Gabbai of the Zvila Rebbe. Very important principle. And the Zvila Rebbe was a tremendous Rebbe, but he also worked. It's interesting. He's a Rebbe that worked. Okay, uncommon, but that's what he did. In any case, so a chassid comes over to the Zvila Rebbe, and he says to him, he says, "I don't understand something. You know, you say Kiddush, I say Kiddush, right? You work and I work. How come you're the Rebbe and I'm the chassid?" Interesting question. That's what he said to the Zvila Rebbe. I don't understand something. Why am I coming to you and eating your shrine, your tish? You know, maybe you should be coming to my tish. I mean, he didn't say that, but obviously the implication was that. In other words, what makes you the Rebbe? Because you're basically doing the same thing as I do. So the Zvila Rebbe looked at him and he said the following, without batting an eyelash. He said, "I will tell you the difference. Why I'm the Rebbe and why you're the chassid. When I'm in a store, you know, when I'm working, right, I'm thinking of Kiddush. When you're saying Kiddush, you're thinking of your store." That is a profound understanding. That's what he said. It's not who you are or where you are. It's where's your mind? What do you want to do with, where do you want to be with your mind? And so on. So that's what he's saying is the following. When I'm in the store, I'm thinking of Kiddush. I don't want to be here really. Okay, I'm here because I want to work and make money to live, right? But my whole goal, my whole life exists in the Kiddush. Ruchnius, spirituality. That's my center. In fact, work is a distraction on my spirituality. With you, right, you're saying Kiddush, right? You're saying the words, but what are you thinking about? You're thinking about your store. Well, how much money did I make this week? You see? Do I have to change my advertising and so on? So work, or rather Kiddush, is a distraction of your work. You see? Because you really want to be in your store. That's a very fundamental idea. Everybody does things, they go to work or whatever. They have to occupy themselves with physical things. The question is, where is your emphasis really? Where do you really want to be? There are people who go to work, but they really want to be learning. They want to learn Gemara, Mishnayos, Halacha, and they're waiting with bated breath, as they say, to go to the shul or the Beis Medrash to learn. You see, that's a Rebbe. That's a Kodesh. Then there are people let me tell you what, as far as I'm concerned, what is happening. And believe me, it's a lot of stuff happening. The fundamental idea that you have to know is we are very close to the Mashiach, very close. That's why you are seeing these incredible, what's called abnormal events. And they're really abnormal. Not only that, but a second fundamental idea, and if anybody wants to watch the whole thing, then you really have to watch the shiur that I gave 5-6 months ago, because that has a tremendous amount of background information. The Rebbeinu Shalom wants Esav, or Edom. Esav is the brother of Yaakov. He was the fourth of. There are 4 of us. He was the fourth of, and I'm not going to explain. That's all on the tape. There are really 4 of us and 4 imams. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Esav. 4 of us, 4 patriarchs, and there are 4 matriarchs. That's why they are 4 and 4. The problem was that Esav, as an Ov, had an incredible job to do. In fact, there are Chazal that say, had Esav done his job, then he would have had 6 Shvatim, 6 tribes, and Yaakov would have had 6. In fact, the Paneach Rosa, who's a Rishon, says that if Esav done his job, he would have been twice as great as Yaakov Avinu. Imagine what this person was. And he failed, and he became a Russia, and he left, and so on. But that doesn't mean the Russia gave up on him at all, you see. And you see that from the Medrash. The Medrash says, it says, Rav Ya'avoid So'ir, that the older will serve the younger, which means Esav will serve Yaakov. So the Medrash says something very interesting. The word Ya'avoid, in the Torah there are no punctuation. You can read the word Ya'avoid as the older will serve the younger, which is really what Esav should have done. He should have done his part of the tikkun process. Or Rav Ya'avoid So'ir, the older will subjugate and persecute the younger. Now remember what I said? That one of the tikkun devices is called Isurin, or suffering. So therefore, Esav would now move from doing mitzvahs. He would move to making the Jews suffer, and in that way enable the Jews to have a tikkun. So Esav could do one of the 2 jobs, you see. So obviously Esav went from Ya'avoid, he became a Russia, and he was given the job of Ya'avoid to persecute the Jews, to make them suffer. Very important idea. Therefore, Esav is still in the concept of tikkun, except he went the wrong way, and he is now in charge of making the Jews suffer. It's a very important principle. Now, and Esav has been doing that. Who is Esav today? And he is there are 4 persecutory agents. There's more, but 4, right? There's Babylon, there's Persia, there's Greece, and there's Rome. The Torah says that Esav zu Edom is the Edom. The Gemara says Edom zu Rome. Edom is Rome. It means, in other words, Esav became Rome. Who is Rome today? Rome is Christianity that became Western civilization. That's really what it is, okay? Now, Western civilization is divided into 3 segments because Esav had 3 characteristics. The first characteristic was incredible gaiva, arrogance, and that is Russia under communism. The second aspect of Esav is that he was an imposter, he was a fraud, Marama Bepeh, and that is Europe. And the third aspect of Esav is Taiva, and that is America. America is Esav, but the best part of Esav. It's called the Tov Sheba-Esav. And therefore what the Rosh wants, which is very interesting, he wants America to change. And that's called the Tahara of America. Yes, America is the good part of Esav, and he wants that to change. Okay? And therefore, Esav has to be part of the tikkun process to assist Jewish people to welcome the Mashiach, to bring him back. Believe it or not. I know it's hard to believe. but without going into all the evidence and the psukim and so on, and by the way, you see that many times in the drasha. That's why the head of Esav is buried with Yaakov Avinu, because that's the Tov Sheba Esav, and so on, you know. But there are many ideas about that. But in the end, Esav, in many ways, has to be tshuva, and he has to become tahor in order to assist the Jews. because God wants to bring Esau back into the fold. A very important principle. Therefore, who is going to bring back America to the fold? And the answer to that is Donald Trump. Donald Trump won by a miracle. There is no way to explain. You could explain it in certain ways, but the real concept is he could never have won. It's impossible. The man had no political experience, no military experience, right? Nothing. And he not only that, he beat out 16 heavyweight contenders. All of them were governors, senators. I mean, it's just incredible how he beat them out. In fact, he himself realized that he cannot win at all. And in the end, in the election day, it just incredibly turned around. That's what happened. And I will tell you something interesting, which nobody really knows, and I was talking about somebody who was there, to show you how much he knew he couldn't win. When he won, all of a sudden, if you remember, 5 o'clock on election day, it began to come in. Florida went to him, Pennsylvania went to him, Michigan, and so on. It was astounding. At 2 a.m., after election day, he went into Steve Bannon, who then was his major guy, okay? Steve Bannon went into a room and he started crying. Why? Because he knew that this was a miracle. 5 minutes later, Trump walked into that room, he went to another corner, and he started crying. Why? Because they knew, in fact they said, and I'll tell you what this guy told me, who was there in the room, by the way. It's an incredible thing. He said there were many things that happened in the last 2 months of the election. In other words, September, October, and then November was the election. And these things that were happening, they totally blocked Trump from winning. And there was nothing that they could do about it. And he said that for some reason, and they realized it was miraculous, every single event that said Trump could not win turned around by itself without any assistance from anybody. And they said to themselves, Trump and Bannon and so on, they said, this is impossible. We're not doing anything. Yet every obstacle to the presidency is being removed without any input from us. And they said to themselves, this is the hand of God. They knew themselves. Why is that? And it's a lot of ideas, but I want to get in terms of today, because the job of Trump is to change America. But it's not happening so quick for 2 reasons. One is because since we are at the end, when the Jews were about to go to Kriyas Yamsuf, right, all of a sudden there was a tremendous argument in heaven where the Malach, each nation has a Malach. The angel of Egypt said, why do you want to kill my Egyptians? Because the angel knew what would happen, right? Because he said, these worship idols and these worship idols. So why are the Jews more privileged to live than my guys, the Egyptians? In any case, why did that happen? Because when the Jews would cross the Kriyas Yamsuf, they would receive the Torah, and that would be the whole initiation of the Tikkun process. And the Sultan went bananas, because he knows when the Jews receive the Torah, it's over for him eventually. One of the ideas why you're witnessing incredible amount of obstacles is because the Sultan is dying. You don't realize that. As we approach the end, the Sultan is dying. He loses all his power. In fact, 98% of his power is gone. It went back to the Jews without getting into what that power means. There's only 2% left, and he's dying. And therefore, he's awakening anybody to try to destroy Trump. That's number one. Number two, however, Trump is making mistakes. He's allowing himself to be misled a lot by the people that he's appointing cabinets, the generals, the military guys, and so on. And therefore, the ROSH has to wake him up, which is interesting. Now take a look at what's happening. Trump said that he would not interfere with the peace process between Israel and the Arabs. But he's not. He's doing it. He's interfering. He says there has to be a two-state solution and whatever nonsense he's saying. And so the ROSH says, excuse me, what are you doing? You said you wouldn't interfere. In fact, you're not allowed to interfere because there cannot be a solution with the Arabs because theologically the Arabs cannot make peace with the Jews. It's that simple. The Quran forbids it. So it cannot be, and the Muslims know that, But Trump, he's interfering with the Jews. He's restricting them in many ways, which is very bad. Why is he doing this? Because he thinks he's the greatest negotiator in the world. He wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. And he's going to show everybody, it's an ego trip. I'm going to show everybody that I can negotiate and actually make peace between the Arabs and the Jews. Which of course is wrong. It'll never happen, and you cannot do this. So God says, you want to do this? I will show the world what type of negotiator you are. Right? Okay. Obamacare, which is a signature legislation that he wanted to change, to repeal and replace, he can't even get that to the Congress. And the Congress is run by the Republicans. That's a slap in the face to his entire ability to negotiate. Mida Canadian Mido, measure for measure. You want to show that you're a great negotiator? I'll show the world what type of negotiator he is. You're going to be stopped at every point, you see, from actually passing the legislation. Punishment number 1. Punishment 2. You said that you're going to stop Iran. Iran is an existential threat to Israel, and you said you're going to stop it, didn't you? He said that, right? He's not doing that at all. So Hashem says, obviously you need to be taught a lesson. You don't understand what an existential threat is. So you know what I'm going to do? I will teach you what an existential threat, and it's not only America, Trump, it's the UN. So Hashem, guess what I'm going to do? Measure for measure. I'm going to bring up an existential threat to America and the whole world. And guess what? Up comes North Korea. Where did North Korea come from? This guy Kim Jong-un, he's not a madman, he's an egomaniac. Because what he wants is to be recognized as an equal power to the United States. But he just blew up a hydrogen bomb. What he wants to do, he's threatening the entire world's existence. But why? Because the Hashem says, you stood by Trump. Why? You said you would stop Iran, to stop that existential threat. You're not doing it. Therefore, I will raise one an existential threat against you. And not only against you, but it's illegal for Iran to threaten Israel, because one member of the United Nations cannot threaten another member. Well, where was the UN? Did anybody protest in the world? No. Therefore, North Korea arises to threaten the entire world. And guess what? They don't even know what to do. They have no idea how to stop this guy. You are looking at a rogue nation that will have a hydrogen bomb with a missile able to ICBM to deliver it, and nobody knows what to do. Why? Because if the US ever fired a missile against North Korea, guess what? They would launch a missile against Japan, Tokyo, and take out 16 million people, and they would launch a missile, not even a missile, you don't need that, to Seoul, North Korea. And by the way, the economy of Japan and North Korea is 20% of the world's wealth. Imagine. And so they don't know what to do with the guy. They can't send a missile because he can destroy. If he ever tried that, and Kim did it to Japan and North Korea, or South Korea, he would throw the whole world into a massive depression. That's what would happen. Einish, you see. Third problem, okay? It's not only these things, okay? You want to welcome Abbas to the White House? This man is a murderer, okay? This man pays off terrorists, right, in order to do their murder. This man is an unbelievable criminal. And Steve Bannon even said to him when he was part of the team, he said, what are you doing? How could you even look at this guy's face? We know he's a murderer, you know? Why are you playing along with this guy? Your whole characteristic which enabled you to be chosen for this job is that you defy everybody and you do what you think is right. Instead, you're not defying anybody. Therefore, what will I do? You want to allow a criminal, a murderer like this guy, you want to honor this kind of guy? Then guess what I will do? I will have you on the criminal investigation, Trump, for Russian collusion, which is a crime. So Trump is being investigated, right? As if he's a criminal. And that's been going on for months, for a year. And of course they don't have anything on him. But that job by Mueller, right, what it's doing is stopping all the legislation that he wants to do. It's an incredible stain on his presidency. Because you want to honor a criminal? Not only that, you want to do, what do you want to do? You want to play around with my people, my children? I will play around with your kids. So then his son, Don Jr., is under investigation, and even Jared Kushner is under investigation. This all Mida Keneged Mida. These things should never be, but they are, because apparently he's not getting the message. That's Trump. Why is this happening to the world? Irma was an anomaly. It's the greatest hurricane ever to come out of the Atlantic. A Hurricane 5, the winds were up to 225 miles an hour. You have any idea what kind of wind that is? The ROSH had Rahmanas on Florida, but it's incredible how it was aimed exactly for Florida. Okay, why is this happening? And then we have, of course, Harvey. Harvey is what? Harvey is Houston. Why? Because what America needs is a tahara. Where do you see that? In 1861 or 1860, you had the Civil War. Why? Why did Moshe allow a civil war in America? Because America is really a great country. It's a good country. It's fair and it's honest. So why did he allow a civil war? You know, nothing is an accident. Everything is under the hashgacha of the Moshe. And it's always a reason why. And I'll tell you why. Because the problem was America was chayav misa. Why? Because the South, slavery. What was the problem with slavery? Because in the Torah where it says you can have an Eved Ivri and an Eved Kanani, these people voluntarily allow themselves to be a slave. That's what it is. They want money, so a Jew will sell himself in order to get an income, and so on. Therefore, these people allow themselves to be a slave. What America was doing was kidnapping people from Africa. Kidnapping is chayav misa. The whole slave population in the southern states was all kidnapped. Blacks. They're chayav misa. So the Moshe was matayar America by having a civil war in order to atone for that chayav misa. And it's funny that the whole civil war happened because of slavery and the emancipation of the slaves. But that's a tahara, even though it was terrible, the civil war. But in many ways, it removed the kitrukim, the chiyuv misa, and that's exactly what happened. How much people died because of that. Okay, that's what happened to America. Because America has a mission. America is the toiv sheba Esav. They don't get it, but that's really what it is. And the Moshe wants the good part of Esav to be part of the tikkun process, without going into all the proofs of that and so on. And therefore, he cleans up America. What's the problem now? Okay, why Harvey? Why Irma? Why Katrina? Right? And then Los Angeles is burning out of control. What's going on here? These are Harvey was an anomaly. They never had a hurricane that dumped 52 inches on a city. That's 4.5 feet, right? Imagine rain in 5 days is 4.5 feet. Okay, it flooded an area of 70% of the whole region of Houston, which is an area larger than Rhode Island, by the way. And not only that, it didn't move. They never saw anything like that. It was a hurricane that just settled itself over Houston, the whole area. But what is this? That's a zero min hashemayim of an oinish. Why? We know why there was a mabul in the time of Noach. Why was there a mabul?